On ABC7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend, one person is dead after a crash that happened last night. We have the latest. And a search and rescue operation underway for a missing plane carrying 162 passengers. And almost 48,000 fans filled the Sun Bowl yesterday as the Sun Devils and the Blue Devils played in the 81st annual Hyundai Sun Bowl. We'll have all your highlights. And in storm track weather, Dan.
All right, definitely an interesting morning. We are tracking fog, and we're also tracking some frost conditions for your windshield. We'll talk more about this coming up.
It's all the news you need to start your Sunday, December 28th, 2014. ABC7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend starts now.
Live, where news comes first. From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland. This is ABC7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. I'm Josie Ortegon. If you're just getting up this morning, here's a look at fog we were seeing in different parts of the borderland. This is near I-10 in Zaragoza and Mission Valley. Other parts saw heavy fog earlier in the day, and some areas are still seeing it now. So let's get a look at your first forecast, Dan. An interesting scene out this morning. A little foggy and a little frosty.
Most definitely, and I want to take you right now to one of our WeatherNet sites that we have, Powell Elementary School in Northeast El Paso. Take a look. That's a live picture from the fog right now. We've been watching this camera over the last few hours or so. The Northeast had not seen much fog, but it slowly started to make its way into their neck of the woods this morning. And you know what? Officially, this is what we're seeing. Current visibilities in El Paso at the airport still being reported at about 10 miles, which is normal. But we are still seeing some portions of El Paso County with fog, and we are under a dense fog advisory for East El Paso County that you see here in the gray color, also for Hudspeth County. If you know anyone driving through I-10, they'll definitely see some of that fog this morning, and the temperatures out there definitely still cold. 27 in El Paso, 23 Las Cruces, 19 for Deming. And I want to drag your attention over now to our WeatherNet site sponsored by the Mattress Firm. The top number is the wind chill temperature. The bottom number is the dew point. Whenever the dew point and the actual air temperature get really close to each other, well, that's when we start to see some of that dew form on the lawn. So some of you might be waking up to your like a freeze over your grass as well across some areas. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. As far as what you can expect for the rest of your day, temperatures getting into the 40s once again, but another cold start to the morning. So bundle up if you're headed out right now. Josie?
Okay, thanks, Dan. And the 81st annual Hyundai Sun Bowl did not disappoint. Both Duke and Arizona State played until the very last second. A great crowd showed support for both teams yesterday. Now, the Sun Devils, take a look. The Sun Devils took it down the field for the first touchdown of the game. Then right before the half, Duke takes the punt, here we go, and goes all the way to 68 yards. Now, the Blue Devils are only down 20-17 at halftime. Now, during the fourth quarter, after Duke takes a 31-30 lead, ASU runs it all the way to the 5-yard line to put ASU in great position. In the very next play, the Sun Devils were in for that touchdown. Now, an interception by ASU kept the Sun Devils on top for the win. ASU wins the 81st annual Sun Bowl 36-31. We'll have all the highlights later in sports. And we're learning more information on a crash that left one man dead. This happened last night around 9 p.m. on I-10 West at Schuster. Police say a man identified as Mark Seidler was riding a motorcycle on I-10 when he veered into the right lane and stopped in the middle of the lane. A woman who was driving in another vehicle was unable to stop in time and hit Seidler. Seidler was thrown from the motorcycle. He was taken to University Medical Center and died from his injuries. The woman was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are still investigating. And new this morning, a man is in the hospital after he was stabbed with a glass bottle. That's according to the Sunland Park Police, or Fire Department rather. Officials say this happened earlier this morning on the 100 block of Ross Street. The man was taken to University Medical Center. He's in critical but stable condition. Police are investigating. And detectives from the El Paso Police Department are asking for your help in an unsolved murder case. Police say 44-year-old Fernando Martinez was murdered on Christmas Eve in 2003. He was found dead inside of his business, Sago Bakery Equipment in Northeast El Paso. Investigators say he was visited by a person earlier that day, and that person fatally shot Martinez. Anyone with information about this case is asked to call Crime Stoppers of El Paso. Their number is 566-8477. And a passenger jet has gone missing with 162 people on board. Roughly an hour before the scheduled landing, AirAsia Flight 8501 lost contact with traffic control. The flight was on its way from Indonesia to Singapore. AirAsia says the pilot wanted to change the planned flight route in the area because of weather. Then communication with the plane was lost. AirAsia says people from 5 nations were on board: Indonesia, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, and France. Of those passengers, 16 children and 1 infant were on board. Search and rescue queues have been activated, and officials in Indonesia are saying there is no reason to believe this is a terrorist act.
What we do know, and we can base this on other accidents, on other crises, on other problems with flights or even attacks on airlines, is at this point, given it was extremely bad weather, the chances of this being some sort of a terrorist activity are very small, because most terrorist activities take place in good weather. For example, 9/11, perfectly clear day, several other attacks. So I would look to something perhaps at this point weather-related.
And President Obama has been briefed on the plane's disappearance. White House officials say they will continue to monitor developments. And in other news, protesters gathered outside Houston Police Department headquarters yesterday to voice their displeasure with the grand jury's decision to not indict an officer in the fatal shooting of an unarmed man. Earlier this week, a grand jury decided not to indict a Houston police officer in the controversial shooting of Jordan Baker. Last week, a Harris County grand jury no-billed Houston police officer Juventino Castro in the fatal shooting of 26-year-old Jordan Baker. Baker was unarmed at the time. Castro was working an extra security job at a shopping center and said Baker matched the description of a suspect in a recent robbery. Protesters claim he was racially and criminally profiled. And new this morning, a sea of blue in downtown Cleveland in support of Northeast Ohio police officers. It's a response to all the recent protests over police shootings. It was the biggest pro-police rally in Cleveland's history, meant to show another side to law enforcement. Bill Safos has more.
Called a sea of blue.
Look what's around us. Everybody, all over, from everywhere came.
It's my first rally I've ever been to, and if I'm going to make it to a rally, I will be here for the police because they are here for us.
It was a rally to support police everywhere after protests across the country, including here in Cleveland.
To every man and woman who wears a badge today, your lives matter.
A week ago, angry protesters took over the streets of Cleveland chanting Black Lives Matter. Today, those protesters letting this crowd have their say.
Black Lives Matter. And you know what? They are abso-freaking-lutely right. Every single one of them.
But with this crowd, the list of who does matter is longer.
The life of Wenjin Liu in New York City matters. The life of Rafael Ramos in New York City, who was executed last Saturday, matters.
Last weekend, hundreds of protesters here against the police, but as you can see today, thousands showing up in downtown Cleveland to show their support in what really is a sea of blue in Cleveland.
I am at awe of all the supports for those that do a job that most of us are too afraid to do.
That from Grace Leon, whose husband Wayne was killed in the line of duty and lives with this loss like so many others here today.
That was Bill Safos reporting. Still ahead on ABC7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend. Snow wreaked havoc for people in the Northeast yesterday. We'll explain coming up. And here in the borderland, it was a little chilly out, but that did not stop plenty of football fans from tailgating. We'll show you all the action coming up. Time now is 8:09. Let's take a live look outside at traffic this morning, courtesy of our TxDOT traffic cams. I-10 in Paisano right now. Haven't heard any reports of anything major on the roads at this time. So if you are headed out and about, traveling to and from out of town, you're good to go. And in Storm Track weather, Dan.
All right, well, we continue to watch those temperatures this morning. Still cold outside. Bundle up if you're headed out. We'll take a look at that and what the rest of the day looks like. And what about that fog? That's coming up.
You're watching ABC7, where news comes first.
You're watching ABC7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend with Josie Ortegon. and storm track weather with Dan Martinez.